Welcome to the session 9 of the novel The Edible Woman by Margaret Atwood. In this session, I am going to speak about feminism or feminist criticism in introduction. Even though Margaret Atwood does not claim herself a feminist, there are many strands of feminist points of view in the novel. In this novel, she speaks about empowerment of women in socially, economically, politically, and other fields. And she also speaks about exploitation of women in TV and advertisement industry and cinema industry. And also she speaks about how technology has been used to torture women. And she also speaks about how patriarchal values and ideas are projected as universal ideas. Now let us look at the feminist movement, how it began and how it developed over the years. Feminist movement, which came to the fore in 1960s, was not the beginning of feminism. It was just a renewal of an old tradition of thought and action already possessing its classic books, which had diagnosed the problem of discrimination and inequality of women in the society and proposed possible solutions to these problems. These seminal books are Mary Wollstonecraft's A Vindication of Rights of Women, Margaret Fuller's Women in the 19th Century, John Stuart Mill's The Subjection of Women, Frederick Angel's The Origin of the Family, Oliver Schreiner's Women and Labor, Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own, and Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex. Feminism is not only a theory but also a political stance focusing on gender as a subject of analysis when reading cultural texts, and a platform to demand equality, rights, and justice which has been denied to women for ages together for one reason or the other. The basic presumption of feminism is that the gender roles ascribed to women are predetermined to fit them into the role of subjugation, and a role as a mother, daughter, wife, or daughter-in-law are not natural but social construct to restrict and train her to think, talk, and act in a way that the patriarchy wants her to be in order to dominate women in all aspects of life. It also argues that the representation of women as weak, docile, passive, innocent, seductress, irrational, emotional, and in other ways are rooted in the society and influence the condition and treatment in the society. She has no power, political and financial, to take decisions and merely led like a, an animal, treated as a sex subject and, and procreating machine, and abused in all possible manner. Feminist literature and cultural critics strongly believe that cultural texts like cinema, television, music, soap opera, painting, beauty contests, and reality shows present actual struggles between genders. Their cultural texts naturalize the subjugation and oppression of women by associating women with negative terms of the binary oppositions. The love of women for jewels, fashion, romance, et al. Are not natural but social construct of patriarchal power structure. If a woman refuses to accept these norms and forms, she will be treated as a monster or witch by the society, as Surpanaka was projected as a witch, monster, and seductress for not fitting into the established norms of patriarchy. On the other hand, Sita was projected as an epitome of a true womanhood as she accepts the norms of male power structure submissively. Thus, woman is consented to her own subjugation and subordination. The patriarchal education system does not allow a woman to read as a woman. She is trained to read from the point of view of a man. Patriarchal values are projected as universal values for women to follow. The language available for women is patriarchal and inherently sexist. Hence, it does not capture the experiences of women. The aim of feminist criticism is to reveal the underlying ideologies within these texts, as these ideologies are used as a tool to continue the oppression of women perpetually. Religion, family, education, arts, institution of marriage, and the knowledge system are the social and cultural structures used to enable the inequality on women without being aware of them. Gender is not a fixed category. Gender is a continuous performance. It could not be fixed forever or universal. Its meaning depends on the location, time, and cultural framework within which it is performed. Therefore, gender and its meaning are constructed through repeated performances. Clothing, mannerism, speech, and language are signs used by bodies to declare their gender to the society and to the world. Men and women use language, clothing, and mannerism as signs of their being men and women. A woman becomes a woman because she plays the role of woman repeatedly. Hence, gender means repeated enactment of signs. Post structuralism and deconstruction have argued that the text is a system of signs. It is open ended and it never finalizes a text in terms of meaning. The signs of a text must be repeated endlessly, and the meaning emerges in the context of reading at that point of time. The meaning of the text is made possible in the process of interaction between the reader, that is context, and the text, that is sign. If there is a reading, there is a text. If not, there is no reading, there is no text. Hence, there is no fixity in terms of gender and meaning. The postmodern theory also rejects the notion of authenticity, authority, universality, and objectivity. Socialist feminism includes class in its study of gender oppression and disparity. It argues that both capitalism and patriarchy work in tandem to subjugate women and tries to connect a link between gender roles and issues of household economy, labor, and wages. We cannot think of a common denominator of gender biased suffering when class matters, financial power, and social prestige superimpose gender roles in these contexts. A woman professor of French with 5-digit salary and with enormous prestige in metropolitan city in Europe can overcome some of the disadvantages of her gender, whereas a tribal woman is triply disadvantaged by virtue of being a poor, tribal, and a woman. Therefore, these two women cannot be measured using the same yardstick. Socialist feminism also focuses not only about industrial labor but also domestic labor. This labor is performed almost entirely by women but always unpaid and even unacknowledged. The work of women inside house is considered invisible. Hence, the sexual division of labor replicates unequal power relations of capitalism and patriarchy. The task feminist criticism, that is gyno criticism, is to concentrate on how patriarchal structures or forces operate within texts written by male writers and to evaluate how male values are assimilated by female writers. Literary texts are a vital mechanism of women for the naturalization of unequal power structure in a society. Literary texts stereotype virtuous women, the seductress, the sacrificing mother, to ensure that these roles become not only acceptable but also make desirable by girl children to acquire when they grow up. Hence, literature is an ideological tool in the end of patriarchy to continue the subjugation of women. Women's body has been represented for ages together as mother, seductress, material, sexual, and procreative device, and certain patriarchal values are attributed to it. Woman as self sacrificing mother, faithful wife, dutiful daughter, or obedient sister became stereotypes. Beauty pageants are commodifying women's body for the pleasure of men. Cosmetic surgery and body adornments became feminine modes. Slimness of body is associated with feminine beauty as shown in advertisements, films, fashion shows, forcing young girls to take drastic measures to reduce weight, risking their health and life. The country itself imaged as female body motherland demanding protection by men. Though it is women's body, they have little say in these assumptions. Their bodies are only an object of study, control, discipline, and gauge. Science as well as technology has its own impact on feminism, and it has been used by men to limit the women's sphere. Science is based on division of emotional and intellectual labor in which objectivity and reason and mind are projected as male, feeling, nature, subjectivity are cast as female, celebrating the domination of mind over nature. Cyberfeminism not only questions the patriarchal nature of ICTs but also developed feminist appropriation of the same. The appropriation of cyberspace for the empowerment of women has taken many forms. The creation of online communities, cyber solace, information network of women entrepreneurs, etc. They constitute a means for women to enter the public sphere. Computer literacy and networking provides women a mode of exit from the circumscribed space of home and rather than be reduced to a sexual object. Thank you for watching the video.